All right, so we are going to pick up where we left off in the video here last night. We put the PTO gearbox on the back of this 9620. Now, when I put this on there, I said, well, the bolts aren't in the box. So I put a piece of M20 threaded rod in there, and we've got a punch lining up the other hole. Well, I got looking in the box here after we shut the video down here last night, and the bolts are in this box here. So we're going to get those 3 bolts in there and then hook our drive line up. And then when we left off with the video here last night, the boys were applying fluid film to the inside frame rail on this C5. So they've got everything covered on it, and they blew fluid film in between the frame rails as well. They haven't done the outside of the frame rail because Jered wanted to keep the color on the outside. They've done the tanks. Looks like it needs, the air tanks, looks like he needs to add another coat here, but we can do that. So he's got it on there pretty thick, but looks like it does need another coat. But yeah. So we're going to get the bolts in this PTO assembly. I don't think I need to use the crane to lift it back up again. I should be able to line these holes right up. So, well, we are actually a little high there, so we might have to get the crane back out. I don't really have this punch in the hole. It's above that guide there. So we'll go ahead and get after things here. Alright, so we have this bolted into place. I think I had said it in last night's video, or I said it earlier in this video. I had said that they had advised that you take this valve stack off. That is not true. That is not, I didn't exactly read it in there, but they do show the list of tools needed, and they show a tool to lift this stack off. So it goes in there. It just made everything easier to unplug everything so I didn't break anything off. This being as heavy as it is, it's kind of off center. There's probably a way to lift this to set it in there like that. It looks like there's a lifting eye right here, but no, that's not an eye. That's a hydraulic line goes into that. But at any rate, they have some kind of a tool, I'm sure, that they use to lift this onto there. So we've got to hook up our drive line. I've got to get my shroud on there. So before I hook up the drive line, I need to get this hub assembly off, get my shroud on there correctly, and then put that back on, hook the drive line up, and then do the rest of our work here. So we've got our drive shaft hooked up here, and now I am working on getting a steel line put into place. There's a couple of line holders up through there that are being a real pain in the ass to get to, but we're managing. We'll go over in next door here. Show you how Jered's making out. He's doing kingpins. They put another coat of fluid film on this. And they are doing kingpins now on this front left side. So they've got the Tiger tool all hooked up. This is a kingpin removal tool, and they're getting taking it off.
Yeah.
Getting it all lined up here and getting things so they'll go into place so that they can have that push the pin out. Don't get your face directly near it.
Go ahead.
Has it come down through the bottom piece yet?
Here. Go ahead.
It should be coming down through it. Keep it going. Keep it going. We gotta make sure it should be coming through this piece here now. Alright, it's coming down through it. What are you looking for?
I don't know.
A can of spray? Run it in with the impact. Keep going. You need a battery? There she is. We're just about done here. We've got to put the PTO shroud on here. This metal line that's right here goes in up underneath the fuel tank. Now mind you, they had advised that you remove the fuel tank when you put this on. There is 2 rubber hose mounts that the steel line goes into. The one you can just barely reach from standing in behind this differential. It's right there. And I had a hell of a time getting my last bolt in on that. That kicked my ass. And the other mount to it is right up here, up in the front. This one's very easy to get to. So this is the metal line that we put in. And this line here is going to supply lubrication oil to the drop box. So this transmission spins the opposite way of the PTO. There's a few gears in this gearbox here that ends up changing the direction so that it'll turn this PTO in the right direction. So we have oil coming from a scavenge pump up on the transmission, which we're going to get into that in a minute, that's up on top, a pump that's on top of the transmission, just in behind the engine. And it is harder to get to than this little line here. So oil is pressurized, it's coming back from a gear pump, pushed into this guy, it cycles through it, comes out of this guy, goes back into the differential. We have to lubricate our differentials. Then it comes out of the differential, returns back through it and back up to the tank. So we've got the pressure line coming over from that gearbox, comes over, up front, around the front of the gudgeon. And it is this line right here. We have a steel line to hook in to go alongside this frame rail and hook up into the scavenge pump, which I can't see it unless I get. I've got a valve. See them two bolts sticking up vertically? That's what's going to hook our return hose up onto it, coming over to our hydraulic reservoir. So I found that guy and I'm like, well, which is the best way to go about it here? Do we go up over the top? So I go up over the top, I can see it. I can't touch it, I can't feel it, I can't do nothing. So I said, well, I can get in through here, but I still couldn't reach it. We used little U-joint style U-joints on an impact. I was able to get that out. So then I took all this stuff off this fender. I had to have some of this stuff off of here to get into there. But we've got some of this stuff taken apart. So then I said, well, let's try to go down in through the cab, and that's where we're at now. We went down in through the floorboard in the cab, and we can reach that pretty good from there. So we ended up removing, it's a 3-stage pump. I don't know if that'll show it in this diagram here, but it's right there. There's 3 stages to it, or 2 or 3. And this line here we had to take off. We returned oil. That returned oil back to the tank. So now we have a valve, which is this guy here. It's got like a spring-loaded orifice of some kind in it. And I don't know exactly what it's going to do. I would assume that this spring-loaded guy here is only going to let a little bit of oil go out. This guy here, the steel line going back to the drop box, and push a little bit of lubrication oil through it. So we had to pull this line here off, mount this valve on top of the hydraulic pump, and then we have to bolt this new line on there, which it doesn't give me this 572275. I don't know what part number that is. I don't know if that's the old hose or what, but that is just going to return back to the tank. Tank is right here, hooks into the tank. So we got to get that hooked up, and then that'll be done. And then what we have to do is we have to put our plastic shroud on the shaft itself. We don't want this shaft to be spinning willy-nilly here, because you could get just corn stalks and debris to get caught on that. So we need this covered. However, in the past we have had U-joints go on these shafts before on the other tractors that we've got. 9320, 9410. And it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass to get that shroud off of there. But we'll deal with that down the road here. Non-greasable U-joints, which maybe I should take a prick or something and try to grease that somehow. We just got a grease zerk here on the slide yoke. That's all. These lines here go to the steering valve, or they go to the steering valve up there. They come down into the steering cylinders. We have a catwalk that goes on here that has that 90-degree fitting on there. That'll hook to that, and then we've got a fuel filter coming out of the fuel tank that bolts on the other side as well. So it would have been a lot easier to have done this job prior to doing the wheel work on this tractor. Next tractor I buy that needs a PTO and needs wheel weights, I'm gonna be one step closer to being a little smarter. And hey, you put the PTO on before you put your wheel weights on there, because we had the front wheels off this tractor, not only to put the blade on, but to put inside wheel weights on it, whatever, and it would have made this job a lot easier to have had that front right wheel off of there to come right in there to put a valve body on top of, or a hydraulic hose on top of that one hydraulic pump. I put it in, I drove it in the shop this way thinking that we would be using the forklift to come in on the ass end of this to put that unit on there. If this son of a bitch was turned around the other way, I would have pulled that hydraulic oil tank off of the other side. But going down through the cab, it's not all that bad. But if I had this hydraulic tank out of the way, I could have stepped right in there and boom, right down over the top. It is, yeah, just in behind this fender here. And then we've got our exhaust cooker is all in there, which that doesn't need to be there, and that needs to come off at some point in time as well. So we've jaw jacked around and around and around here. So we'll go over here and we'll show you how the boys are making out with the C5. Jered's got the kingpin replaced on this left wheel, and he is now working on getting this side here apart, and this will be the same procedure as the other side. He's got to pull the he has to pull the brake components off the tie rods, and then he'll put that Tiger tool unit on there to punch that pin out. I have done these kingpins before by pounding that son of a boo-ha out of that beam there. And the requirement of getting that out, you had to heat the beam up, and the problem with that is when you heat that up, when it cools down, it constricts. Now yes, we have the Lance torch. We could, if we wanted to, torch that guy out, but I had the kingpin press tool before we bought the Lance torch. So he's got this together. There's a bearing here on the bottom. All the weight rides on that, and then this, if you recall, I don't know if it was in this video or the prior video, this had a lot of slop in it. And when you get a lot of slop in your kingpins, instead of your wheel being straight, it ends up wandering like that. That wears your tires out, and that is a cause of the bearing slopping out and your pins and bushings slopping out as well. So they're going to get that other guy on there, and then Jered's going to resort to putting the clutch into place. He's got the flywheel all tapped out. He cleaned up the threads on it, and then he's got the bell housing bolts all cleaned out as well. So we're going to get our hose mounted, get that oil returning back to tank, get our line hooked up, and we'll touch base with you when we get that job done. Alright, so we are closing in on this project, but we're gonna run over and put the chopper away. The roads are clean now, and Jered is installing this transmission on the C5. They ended up getting the oil pan in there. He's obviously got the flywheel in it, the clutch is in it, and he is putting her into place there. So we'll run over, and we've got to plow out a little bit of the driveway where we're going to park this thing. But it is the 8th of February, and it has been quite a while since we've been able to have dry roads to be able to put this thing away. So we're gonna go over and scrape the road, scrape the driveway out, and get that done here so that we haven't got to worry about the chopper anymore being outside. It's been outside for a couple of weeks now. Anyway, we had to pull it out once we brought the 9620 in to put the PTO in it. So about every day, any day that we had where the roads were clean, the wind had been blowing and it blew snow across, and the roads would be wet in different areas. So we'll take our opportunity now. It's interrupting the final step of that PTO project, but that is just the way it goes sometimes. Alright, so we are back on this job here. We're going to finish it up. All we've got left to do is we have to plug in this main harness for the PTO. Plugs in underneath this panel. I've got the plug located right here, but I can't get it to plug in without taking that panel off. So we've got everything here hooked up. I want to bring a piece of flat stock down to tie this hose up against it. Or to tie this hose up to. This hose got down in here on Andrew when he was pushing one day, pinched the hose on the steering stop. So we're going to do that. Right now what we're working on is putting the cover over the PTO shaft itself. So we've got to put that on there. I'll show you this other side. Got it all buttoned up nicely. And we had a hell of a time getting this plastic shield and underneath that fuel tank. It's a good thing it is plastic, because we had to do some bending and forming to get that to come back through here. So we got quite a tight fit. Looking all this stuff over, I was like, oh boy, it's gonna be a real mongrel to get to in the event that we have to swap the shaft out for when we have a U-joint go, whether it's on the rear or the front. We've had to do that on the 9410 and the 9320, but it's all in all pretty easy to get apart. There's a shroud right here that'll come off. That'll allow us to get all the bolts out on the rear portion. And then up here on the front portion, we'll go over to the other side. There's probably a little more room to look in. On this front portion here, you can leave the main shield underneath the tractor. You can get this section here off. That'll allow you to get in there. And then you're probably still gonna have to take this step off. But at least you don't have to crawl in underneath and try to reach up in between the fuel tank and whatever to get to the bolts coming down through that shroud. Jered's got the transmission bolted into place. He got that task done while we were jerking around, going back and forth up and down the road with the chopper. He ended up putting new linkage arms going up into from the transmission to the clutch pedal, and he's got them hooked up. Now he's just putting bolts into the transmission housing, bolting that up to the bell housing of the truck. Got kingpins installed on both sides. I don't know if we did that in this video or if it was in the previous video, but yeah, fluid film, whatnot. So, all right, let's figure out this shroud, get that into place. I've got a bolt here that I took and cut little grooves in with a grinder. We'll run that into these M16 threaded spots on the rear of the tractor just to clean them threads out. There's paint and rust in there. So we'll do that and get this on there. Okay, so we have our shroud on there. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that little cover on the PTO shaft itself. It's just a rubber boot. We'll leave that on there. Now I ended up taking the panel off the back of the cab because I couldn't get this damn thing to plug in. It's got the speed sensor that's in this plug, the actual switch itself for the clutch, and the temperature control for the PTO as well. So this plug that you're supposed to plug into is sitting right in behind the cab. It had a cap on it. I could see it from the bottom, but I could not get this to plug in. I needed to be able to get my hand up around it. There we go. And I couldn't do that with the damn cover on there. So that's going to plug in like that. We'll get our panel back on there, and then we'll have to go up into the cab, take the armrest apart, and put the actual rocker switch in. And then that's going to finish up this job here. So I'll get the panel on, and we'll join up with you guys when we get up into the cab here. Alright, so now we are ready to put our rocker switch in. It's going to go right there. So we need to figure out how to get into this armrest here. Pop this little cover out. I don't think... Maybe I can just pop that cover off and maybe I could pull the wire up out, plug it in, and then just push this down in there and be done with it. But I might have to take up the armrest itself. Looks like there's screws underneath. Yeah, so let's see if we can't just pull that out. And yeah. Ew! I don't know if that's the one or not. I can get a little pair of pliers. I might be able to. Pull that guy up out of there. Maybe pop this other one off too. Okay, there it is. It's right there. So, boy, I might be able to get that guy up out of there. Boy, it might not be. It wants me to dart that in. So I've got... Make sure that does say PTO. Had to put my frickin' glasses on just to see it. Yep. So that says PTO. So I need to fish this down through there. I want to bring this up through the other side, get it out. Alright, there's that, like that. PTO. Am I not sliding it together correctly? No, it's going. Alright, that's in there. Push them wires down in there like that. And this guy is going to go bang. Bang, bang. Alright, so put that guy down in there. Bang, bang. So now we got our PTO switch. All right, so that was easy peasy. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to start this up. And we're going to make sure we don't have any leaks. So I'm going to start it up, let it run for a second, then shut it off, because we don't want to start it and have it bang against something and then get out and blah blah blah. So we'll start it, let it run for a minute, and then shut it off. Hopefully we don't have any leaks. So, we ready? Alright, everything seems to be running okay. So now, well, we can get out, make sure we ain't got oil hitting the floor. Because we do want to run this and walk around it. But we had these steering lines unhooked. What else did we have unhooked? We had the lube line unhooked going to the rear end, and I see right now I've got to hook up this grease line. So let me get that grease line hooked up and we'll come back to you here. Alright, so I had to hook up this grease line. And that goes up to that center pin there. So we'll just walk around this quick. I don't see any oil on the floor yet. We do want to let it run and make sure we don't have any leaks. And I'll probably wait till I have some eyes on this, because I'd like to have somebody up in the cab if I had some help here, and I would have them turn the wheel ever so slowly just to make sure that we don't have anything coming into contact here with anything. So let's go ahead and start this up. We'll let it run. Just kind of walk around it, make sure we don't have any leaks that are visible. We'll steer it from side to side just a little bit, and then we'll have to wait till I get an extra person here to kind of keep an eye on things. As I'm up in here, we'll see what coolant level's low. We need to have a payload put in this, so I doubt we should trigger a code or something. Yeah, it's not triggering a code or anything. PTO is not even on the screen because the payload has to be put into it. As far as the tractor, as far as the computer knows, the tractor isn't capable of a PTO. So it's not showing up on the display. We better go ahead and walk around this quick. Okay, I think we are in pretty good shape here. I think that shaft's running like a clock. Again, I don't want to do a full turn here until I have somebody that can operate the steering wheel and then watch everything very nicely so we don't have a hose come up and get caught in the shaft or something or what have you. So with that being said, that is going to do it for this video.